Anthony was like doing too much. Like there was a point where I needed Anthony to stop talking because you're the one inserting yourself in their marriage and their problems. Like, granted, maybe Brandon talks to you about this, but that wasn't for you to come back and bring it to the group and try to turn it on Christina. Like, let them work that out. You don't need to come in here and try to be, you know, Captain Saber Brandon. Like, what are you doing? So, hey everybody, welcome back to the Brandy Yvonne channel. Of course, I'm your girl, Brandy Yvonne. Here on my channel, y'all already know we do fun reviews, recaps, and discussions of all of our favorite shows, y'all. This video, we are talking OWN's new show. I was gonna say hit show. We don't know if it's a hit yet, but it could be a hit. I liked it so far. Anyways, OWN, presented by Carlos King. He's enhancing the franchise's Love and Marriage Detroit, okay? This is season 1, episode 1. The title was What Up Doe? I guess that's what they say down in Detroit. Before we get into anything, y'all, I would really, really appreciate if y'all subscribe to this channel. We are trying to grow this channel over here. So I really, really, really appreciate y'all help if y'all would subscribe. Like, it would mean a lot to me. Also hit that thumbs up button. Share the video where you like to share and comment down below. Let me know what you think of Love and Marriage Detroit. I personally liked it. Now, at first, I was like, some of these storylines are giving Love and Marriage Huntsville, but then I feel like we was getting some different things happening, and I feel like it could definitely do its own thing because I didn't want it to feel like Love and Marriage Huntsville. Like, I didn't want the same formula, and I didn't want the same formula as Love and Marriage DC. So far, Love and Marriage DC feels different to me than Love and Marriage Huntsville, and so far, Love and Marriage Detroit feels different than the other two as well, but we're going to see as the season goes, okay? So let's introduce you to the couples first. Let's just get into the couples. I'm going to try my best to put the pictures up as I talk about them, depending on how this editing go, because y'all, it is almost 10 o'clock in California. I meant to do this video way earlier today, but things were not going my way, and I was tired, y'all. But anyway, enough of the excuses from me, right? So the first couple I believe we were introduced to was Brandon and Christina. They've been married 11 years. He peeped her on Twitter, slid in the DMs or whatever. They only knew each other 6 months before they got married, and they have a daughter. I forgot the daughter's name. Or no, they have 2 kids. I'm sorry, they have 2 girls. I forgot their names. I think they started with B's though. Anyway, Brandon is a music artist, like developer. He has a place called a Star Factory where he trains music artists and all that. So that's good to see the media training. Then Christina is a fashion designer, image consultant, and content creator, okay? And then we had the second couple was Russell and Kirby. I want to say the last name was Smith, maybe. Russell he has like a nonprofit associated with sports, and then he's in the Army National Guard, and Kirby is a content creator, okay, and they have a daughter as well. They've been married like 3 years. I think they're like the youngest ones on the cast, looks like to me. And then the other couple we had was Anthony and Dr. Latoya Thompson, I believe. So Dr. Latoya is a physical therapist, like in the sports medicine. And Anthony works for Live Nation, and y'all all know Live Nation does concerts, everything like that. And he also owns and manages a studio also, I believe. So, and they have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. And they've been married, I think they said like 14 years or something like that. She was talking about how he gave her a dog while she was in school, I'm assuming medical school, and she was like, I didn't need a dog right then, but that's, how he was trying to get her. When they open up the show, Carlos King talks about how back in the day, Detroit was known for music and cars and all that. Detroit was that booming city back in the day. Motown. Detroit is famous for Motown and for Ford motor car vehicles. So then, Detroit kind of took a turn. There's all these bad neighborhoods, abandoned warehouse, abandoned houses and all that. But now it's a new Detroit, up and coming Detroit. It looked very pretty in the pictures that they showed. A lot of Black people just gaining success there. And side note, a personal story. So I met this guy at my little brother's wedding. He was the friend of the lady that was officiating the wedding. And I was telling him what I do as a special education teacher and all that, and teaching some really handicapped kids. And so he actually offered me a job opportunity in Detroit to deal with like the young adult population, which is my field. I do high school and young adult really. And so so I would love to do something like that and helping them with like life skills and things like that, which is right up my alley. I prayed about it. I didn't feel like God was leading me to Detroit. I didn't feel like God was leading me to leave my position at the school I'm at now. And I have a lot going on there right now anyway, besides just teaching. So I didn't take the opportunity, but when I was looking at, and also I was like, what's good about Detroit? I wasn't seeing it for Detroit, but then watching the show, I was like, okay, Detroit. Now, I don't know if I'll end up moving there, but you know, I'm open to the possibility of moving to Detroit. It seems like they have a lot of opportunity there. Like it's looking better than I thought it was based on this show. So that's one thing I enjoyed about seeing this show for sure. And I'm glad you just have some new refreshing characters, right? Okay, so they go down to this barbecue. They're having a barbecue to get the family friends together for Father's Day. Okay, so everybody comes. I think Kirby and Latoya. Yeah, Kirby and Dr. Latoya are sorority sisters. And then Kirby and Christina have known each other for some years. Brandon and Anthony have known each other. Like, it seems like they are all naturally, organically connected. I'm assuming and I'm hoping. Somebody mentioned on Twitter, it seems like a more natural connection than the Love and Marriage DC cast was when they first started, and I'm getting that vibe too. They seem like they really do know each other more. Not like Ashley and Arena, who didn't really weren't friends like that, right? So anyway, there's this guy at the table named Bravo, and I'm assuming we're going to see more of him. He was talking about, he went to Vegas for some event or something, and Brandon wanted to go, but he's like, yeah, I wanted to go, but my wife didn't let me. And so already they were like teasing the guys, saying they wasn't gonna make their plates and all that, and they fell to sit down. And so she was like, let you go to Vegas? Like, what are you talking about? And then then Anthony's like, oh, see, you need to come to my men group. You need to come to my men group. And his men's group is about empowering men having silence, giving men a voice, all that good stuff. Okay, Anthony. So anyway, he's like, yeah, we gotta get you on the men's trip. We're just gonna have a getaway. It's gonna be a weekend for the men. And he's like, you know how women go on trips, men gonna go on trips. And I'm like, okay, Anthony, whatever. So then Brandon was like, yeah, I'm gonna go for the weekend. And then he was like, see, are you gonna ask your wife or you just gonna tell her? So then he's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna tell her. And so then Christina's like, what? Like, you ain't finna just tell me nothing. You gonna ask me. Like, you think you finna just tell me? Like, she's like, did you ask? And so then it was like, ooh. And so then, in the confessional, Russell said he would never let Kirby talk to him like that. I said, ooh, okay. So they were like, then they got to this whole discussion about the wives and the husbands and like, do the husbands have to ask permission? And when they trying to do something, see, Brandon said Christina be asking him 21 questions every time he trying to leave the house and do all this stuff. And at first I was like, dang, like, what is the issue? But then I do remember Carlos King said there was a secret, right? And I'm like, okay, what's the big secret? What's the big secret? And then when I watched the second time, I'm like, okay, Brandon, you over here want your wife to trust you and do all this. Don't act like you didn't do stuff in the past to make her feel insecure and not wanting to trust you now. Like, that's my thing with Brandon. But I wonder how long ago did the issue happen? And we're going to get to what the issue is towards the end of the episode. So stay tuned. Don't log off. Keep watching. So anyway, so Christina was like, you need to ask, you ain't gonna be just out here doing stuff. And so they were like, okay, she want to ask me all these questions just to do anything. And so they asked Kurt, like Russell said, Kirby, don't be asking a bunch of questions, only like 3. Anthony was saying he'd be giving diplomatic answers to like a politician. Latoya, I guess she said she asked questions too, like, no, Anthony don't do whatever he want to do either. Anthony's face was cracked. Anthony, they were like, well, do you let your wife do whatever? And so Anthony was like, yeah, I trust my wife. Like, Latoya's like, I don't gotta ask him to do stuff. He was like, oh, she, follows God, she's good and all that. So anyway, they were having a little debate. And so, Anthony's like, yeah, you go come with us. Yeah, you tell her you come with us and all that. Anthony's stirring up a bunch of mess the whole episode. He stirred up a bunch of mess. So anyway, I don't know if Brandon get to go to Vegas or on a little trip or not. We're going to see. So, moving on, next scene, then we see Christina and what's the young lady's name? Kirby. I gotta remember all the names, y'all. I'm trying to remember the names. New show. Okay, so Christina and Kirby meet up to go to this swag playground place, which I thought was the cutest name. Y'all see that black man playing with the babies? That was so cute. So anyway, it's like a little jump around trampoline place. They got them in every city. And so they met up, and Christina's getting ready to turn 40. She said she's like a mentor to Kirby because she's like 10 years older than her. And so, but seeing like Kirby was mentoring Christina in that scene, because Christina was just saying like it's a lot. She feels like she don't have time to get out for herself because Brandy's always in the studio working with these artists. He always busy. She don't feel like he putting her first and their family, and they're supposed to be a team. And sometimes she need a break, and she's feeling overwhelmed. But you know what? She turned 40. She feels like it's a fresh start, it's a new leaf on life. New lease on life. I'm sorry. Kirby's just encouraging her, like, girl, you don't look 40, you look 26. Like, you can get out there, still do what you want to do. It's going to be good. And that's right. And side note, all three of the ladies are pretty. And the men are good looking, too. I will say this is a very, very good looking cast. They're all pretty much easy on the eyes, for sure. So I'm interested to see, like, some of the side characters we'll be getting as well. Okay, so, you know, Kirby was just encouraging Christina. So then we get to the studio. So Brandon's in the studio with his new artist named Nyjah. He said that he feels like, you know, Nyjah could really help him make some money, you know, kind of put him back on the map. And let me just backtrack to the picnic thing. So I guess Brandon and Anthony and that Bravo guy that went to Vegas all kind of are friends and coming up in the music business together. And Brandon really watched Anthony's career take off. And Brandon, I guess this would be that next guy up, is what Anthony was saying. I'm not sure if he was saying it at the Father's Day picnic or at the picnic at the end. But anyway, you know, it's just this whole thing with Brandon feeling like his wife is trying to hold him back from this whole artist development thing and all that. All right, so anyway, back to the studio. Nyjah, and they're trying to hit her nose. He telling her he need to sing it, stop rapping it, all that. Okay, so then Christina called him down on the line and FaceTimed him. So then he was like, act like he didn't want to be bothered with her. I hated this scene. I cringed at this scene, y'all. So then he's like, okay, what you want? She's like, okay, like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm in the studio with my artist. She was like, okay, so when are you coming home? And he's like, I don't know. Like, he's saying in the confessional that, you know, men go out, they have to work, they have to be gone from their house for 40 to 60 hours a week. And then she's like, okay, well, it's late. Her thing is like, he's always coming home late at night. It's a whole thing. And he was like, oh, well, you interrupted my vibe, and I might as well kill this whole session because you messing up the vibe. You ain't never been in the zone. And why did you even call just to say hey? And like, he's just getting all frustrated. She's like, I can't call my husband. So like, it just seems very toxic. And one thing, I don't want a couple already in the struggle. That's one thing I don't like about the show so far, is I don't want them already in a bad marriage. Like, why we gotta do that? I mean, not that everybody's marriage is perfect. Like, I don't want this to be a male Martell, okay? I'm gonna just say that. I'm gonna say it. I don't want this to be a male and Martell, okay? And it was giving that tease. It was giving that tease, and I don't want it. And Brandon looked like he cheated. I'm sorry. He got the look of a cheater. I can't explain to you what it is, but it is. So anyway, and it's just give toxic. I'm sorry. Brandon and Christina have been being toxic. So anyway, they get off the line. Okay, so then we see Anthony is like training his son at like a gym place. I'm not sure they're doing like football drills or whatever they're doing. So anyway, his wife comes, Dr. Latoya, and she's like, did you have him stretch first? Did you do this and that? He's like, yeah, he good. So he's talking about he met with the wine distributor. So Dr. Latoya and Anthony own a wine company. It's Latoya's idea. It's called Opulence Wine. She said she's really interested in how the grapes get to the wine process, so that's why she decided to make her own wine. Okay, so shout out to her. I love Black people who get into the wine business. That just is the most fascinating thing to me. I love that show, Kings of Napa, that used to come on. I hope they didn't get canceled, but they ain't came back, so maybe they did. But they got like Black-owned wineries in Napa, which is not that far, well, like an hour or so drive from where I live. If you ever come to California, you go to Napa, visit the Black-owned wineries, y'all. You got to do it. So anyway, support Black wineries for sure. I'm a big supporter of Black wineries. So anyway, that's just a side note. So he was saying, like, what's just filling her in on what's going on with the business. He is like her lover, her secretary, her assistant, the manager, and all that. So he was brought up the whole thing with Atlanta to her. She's not really trying to hear that. So he took a position in Atlanta, and it was during COVID, because he works for Light Nation, but then he took a position with I guess it was like Disney, Marvel, that kind of thing. And so, which was a big opportunity for him to work with them. But it was during COVID, and Latoya was the doctor at the time with kids at home trying to do distance learning. So she wasn't having that. So he would literally have to like fly back home every single day after working. I'm like, how are they doing that? Especially with COVID. Like, how the heck were they doing that? Because we wasn't going nowhere. So I'm wondering like how that was going on. So anyway, so they basically said, like, if he didn't come home every single day from that job, like, they would have been divorced. Like, it was all bad. And so she didn't like that. That was very stressful for her. I don't blame her. And she felt like when he made the decision to go, it wasn't really a family discussion. He just jumped up and went. He feels like he wants to go back to Atlanta and take advantage of that opportunity again. He's like, I support everything you do with your wine and all that. Like, I want you to, support me too. She's like, she kind of blew him off though. Let me tell you something about that Dr. Latoya. Dr. Latoya, she don't play. She very much was giving, she don't play, and she ain't got no time for the BS, and I ain't mad at it. Go ahead, Dr. Latoya, okay? Anthony better get on or get off, okay? So anyway, he was like, I want you to support. She's like, okay, like, we love each other, yes. Team Thompson, we support each other. Yeah, it's fine. Like, she's like, we ain't got to do all that. Like, you ain't got to do all that. Like, yeah, we support you, but we need to have a discussion because you ain't gonna just jump on down to Atlanta, sir. And that's what she's saying. So anyway, I feel like Anthony's whole, like, well, Black men got to have voices and stuff because his wife is a boss. And it feels like he's competing with that. That's what it's giving. So is that the vibe y'all get? So anywho, the last scene, which is a big explosion scene of the episode, is the Brandon and Christina. I can't think of their last name to save my life. Anyway, they are celebrating I think it's Smith actually. They're celebrating their wedding anniversary. I don't know if it's the 11th or 12th anniversary, but anyway, Brandon surprises Christina. He puts a blindfold on her. He takes her to a lavender farm. At the farm already having a picnic is the other two couples, okay? He also got a band performing. I forgot the gentleman's name performing. He had backup singers and everything. So, she's really happy to surprise. That was cute. I thought that was a really cute romantic idea. Russ, they were like, okay, why the lavender? She was like, she always wanted to go to a lavender farm. She could smell the lavender. And so they were like, oh, okay. Russell was like, oh, like, how did you even think about it? Like, that's a good idea. And so, Kirby's like, yeah, you need to take notes because you are not romantic. And so in the confessional, he was like, yeah, I'm romantic. I like to cook her some stuff on the grill sometimes. Like, cooking on the grill is not romance, sir. That's the thing you should do anyway. Like, that's not romance. Men be wanting a random applause for the smallest things. I'm sorry to my men followers. But cooking, it does impress me, especially a man that doesn't typically cook, like, and expects me to do cooking. But it's not, like, romantic. But we appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. We appreciate it. I guess, depending on the setting and how you do it, it could be romantic. I ain't gonna take all y'all credit. But anyway, he also talking about some game they play. She like, you talking about sex? So anyway, he ain't romantic. So, they're sitting down having the picnic and all that. And so, they, like I said, they had the band there. So Russell starts distributing food. He said, we got salads, we got steak and potatoes. They was like, oh, okay, you fancy. And so then Kirby was like, oh, I thought I had a salmon. And so then Russell was like, no, baby, you eat what I eat. And so then Anthony over there like, yeah, you told her that because you been coming to my classes. And so then Russell was like, like, don't get me up in that. And so he was like, yeah, you part of the, what is it called? The He-Man Woman Haters group. I think that's from the Little Rascals, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So anyway, so then Christina was like, teasing them, saying He-Man, Woman Haters groups, that. She's like, how did you, she started asking him. He's like, nah, like, it ain't even about that. It's just about men having voices. And she was like, yeah, how did you become a chauvinist and all that? Because he was saying, you know, making all these comments. And then he did say, no, I do support the sisters. And then he over there, you know, cheering Russell on, correcting his wife. And Latoya was like, don't do that. So anyway, so Christina is like, you know, how did you get to this point where you over here, you know, being like the way you are and like a chauvinist and stuff? So then Anthony tries to explain, like, you know, first of all, I just be joking. Like, you don't understand. Like, it's not like that. Like, then somehow he gets on the topic of Brandon and saying, like, you know, you got to let my man Brandon, you got to let him breathe. You know, you don't need to be stifling his career. You don't need me doing all that. Like, he used to be going to the clubs and trying to do artist development and all this stuff and all that. So I'm like, but Anthony, like, why do you need to defend Brandon? Like, what is happening? So, Brandon was like saying the worst thing for a man is for, him to feel like he can't live out his dream, for a woman to kind of like stifle his dream. And so Christina was like, well, you know how I feel about you going to the club. And Brandon was telling the story about like the last time he wanted to go to the club. One of his best success stories, as a girl was having a birthday party in the club. That was one of his major success stories, that artist. And he wanted to go to celebrate her birthday, but Christina didn't let him go. And she was like, and you wanted to celebrate her birthday and do what? And like, what else? And she was like, no, you already know, like, the past and all that, why you are not going to the club. I don't want you going to the club. And so they were like, okay, y'all going to the club? Russell was like, well, he ain't going to the club. Kirby was like, he ain't going to the club because he don't want to go to the club. We ain't letting him go to the club. Okay. So Anthony, I think this is where Anthony was getting into the whole thing of like Christina stifling Brandon's career and all that good stuff. And she was like, well, you don't need to like protect him for me. Like, I'm his wife. Like, we good over here. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Anthony was like doing too much. Like, there was a point where I needed Anthony to stop talking because you're the one inserting yourself in their marriage and their problems. Like, granted, maybe Brandon talks to you about this, but that wasn't for you to come back and bring it to the group and try to turn it on Christina. Like, let them work that out. You don't need to come in here and try to be, you know, Captain Saver Brandon. Like, what are you doing? So anyway, Christina's like, you know, we good over here. And so then Brandon was saying, like, you know, you don't let me do stuff. You be trying to like stop me from doing this and that. I'm trying to reach my dream. I'm trying to work with more artists. I'm trying to do stuff in the club. And then Kirby was like, oh, so are you trying to like, you know, find new artists to work for in the club? So then Russell's like, like, don't be in a marriage. Don't be in a marriage. And so then she's like, I'm just asking him. And so then she was like, Christina was like, well, you already know the history. You already know the history. So everybody was like, what? The history? And so then Anthony was like, are we talking about artist development or history? Like, what's going on? And so I'm like, they talking history. Now, once they kept saying that word history, I was like, what's the tea? What's the history? Okay, so anyway, then next thing we know, Kirby over there talking about, yeah, because don't you have a new female artist you're working with right now? Because he was like, what? Like, how you know that? So then she's like, well, Russell told me that you were working with a new artist. So then they played a clip and they showed Russell telling her, like, yeah, he's working with his new artist. And she's like, what's his name? What's the name? He's like, I don't remember the name. And she's like, but she's a woman. He's like, yeah, he was about to lie, by the way. And then they showed another clip of Brandon and Russell shooting pool and Brandon telling Russell about the new artist and how he hasn't told his wife. He's waiting for the right time to tell her and all that. And that's why he hadn't told her yet. So Brandon was like, well, I was waiting for the right time to tell my wife that's between me and her. But since you want to do that, Russell's like, you need to get out their business. Brandon's like, yeah, you got your whole arm up in our marriage. And so Kirby's thing was she didn't know that Christina didn't know, or she would not have brought it up. Brandon feels like Kirby's trying to ruin the anniversary thing, but Kirby said she didn't know. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe she didn't. So Christina is looking crazy in the face, okay? And so she was like, you know, why do I have to find out from other people that you're over here working with a new artist? You already know how I feel about that. So we find out in the confessional what the big secret history was. So basically, Brandon had an emotional affair with one of his artists. And this was somebody that Christina used to work with, took under her wings. Mind you, in the beginning of the episode, Brandon said that Christina won't style any of his artists anymore. And I guess this is why, because she really, became friends with this young lady, I'm assuming, really took her under her wing. And then that lady ended up having an emotional affair with her husband. So that's why she don't trust him around no new artists, okay? And she was saying, I already know how my husband is set up, so that's why he ain't going to the club. He ain't doing all this. So then she's really heard, she's like, we supposed to be building together, supposed to be building this family. You put everything else before me, your daughter, our daughter, the family, all that. You put Sugar Factory above all that. And she over there having the most dramatic scene she could have. I don't know if she squeezed the tears out or not, y'all. So then Brandon finally was like, okay, let's have a sidebar. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's have a sidebar. And that was pretty much it. It was to be continued. Y'all see how the music background people was sitting there watching? That was awkward. Anyway, the previews look good. Are y'all liking Love and Marriage Detroit so far? I thought it was a good, solid introductory episode for sure. I think I'm definitely going to get into it. It's nice having new people, new characters. This just don't give me Love and Marriage Huntsville, Love and Marriage DC, recycle storylines and new people. And we good over here, Carlos King, but it's looking like a hit. I didn't know Carlos was from Detroit. For some reason, I thought he was from the South. But anyway, y'all, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I'll talk to y'all again soon. Bye.